Hello, everyone, and welcome back to The Rundown. I will be your host today, Craig DeLuz, coming at you from the West Coast, the left coast, behind the Iron Curtain, otherwise known as the Sierras. And today is Taco Tuesday.
It's raining tacos from out of the sky. Tacos, no need to ask why. Just open your mouth and close your eyes. It's raining tacos. It's raining tacos out in the street. Tacos, all you can eat. Lettuce and shells, cheese and meat. It's raining tacos. Yum, 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 yummity yum. It's like a dream. Yum, 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 yummity yum. Bring your sour cream.
Oh, yeah, we're having a good time here on The Rundown on Taco Tuesday. Thank you so much for tuning in. We appreciate you liking and sharing the program and encouraging your friends to do the same. Mike is stuck in traffic, so not sure he's going to be able to make it today, but he did say he's going to try. So I got the window open, and if he's able to make it, hey, we'll have a good old time. It'll be a great conversation for all of us, and if not, it'll just be a great conversation for us. So would love for you to encourage your friends once again. Tune in, like, and share. Let's go ahead and get into the program the way we usually do. And you know how we start it. Usually it's with a quick shout out to our sponsors. We're going to start with the folks at Hitman Industries. Now, they make rifle and pistol caliber barrels available for you to purchase at any length. All you have to do is go to hitmanindustries.net, check it out, and place your order right there. Then we've got the California Republican Assembly working to help elect conservatives at all levels of government, from school board all the way up to President of the United States. In fact, Ronald Reagan once referred to CRA as the conscience of the Republican Party. You need to find out why. Just go to cragop.org. That's cragop.org, and understand this: if you want to be a part of California's future today, you've got to join CRA. Next, we have the best in concealed carry tactical holsters available on the market, and that would be at hawgholsters.com. That's HAWG holsters.com, because they like helping Americans wear guns. Go there, check them out, and if you like what you see and you see something that you want to buy, go ahead and use the discount code The Rundown. All caps, no spaces, one word, just like it is right up there, and you're going to get your hog holster on discount today. And then finally, if you're looking to buy new gear, whether it's indoor gear, outdoor gear, whether you're looking for boots, hats, pants, backpacks, whatever it may be, you'll find what you're looking for at uscombatgear.com, because it's the place where you can find all things tactical except the gun. Also want to remind you, if you're watching this program during the 3 o'clock hour on the West Coast or the 6 o'clock hour on the East Coast, you are watching us live, and we would love to hear what you think. We would love to hear if you like the program, dislike the program. We'd love to hear what you think about the particular topic that we're talking about, whether you agree or whether you disagree. And by the way, our only requirement is that your comment be interesting. And just so you know, best way to be interesting is to disagree, because if you disagree, that gives us then the opportunity to mock you.
Oh wow, is that a mockingbird?
Man, is that a mockingbird? Is that a mockingbird?
As Mike would say, we will mock you. All right, today is a big day in electoral politics. And why is it a big day? Well, that's because, things are going to get a little interesting coming up here. They're going to get a little interesting because there is a race right now taking place in the state of Michigan, which could be very, very telling for the future of the Democratic Party. And that part of that is the war that's taking place between the Democrat Party establishment and the Democrat Socialist, or the Democrat Socialists of America, or the Democratic Socialists, or let's just be honest, the Socialist Marxists that are attempting to take over the Democratic Party. And this particular race pits a couple of folks against each other that are, let's just say, their politics, other than their position on Israel, they're not too far apart from each other. But one is supported by the establishment, and the other, quite frankly, is not. And by the way, then the big question is whether or not they will be, should they wind up being the nominee. Breitbart here is pointing out, it says Michigan primary puts Democratic divide on the ballot. And I think this is a very good point here. They say, U.S. Democrats voted Tuesday in their marquee. U.S. Democrats voted Tuesday in their marquee primary in Michigan, choosing between a left-wing insurgent and an establishment-backed congresswoman in a contest that has become a proxy war over Israel, electability, and the future of the National Party. The winner will face Republican Congressman Mike Rogers in November for the seat being vacated by retiring Democratic Senator Gary Peters, a race central to the party's difficult effort to win control of the Senate. Democrats must defend Michigan while gaining 4 Republican-held seats to control the upper chamber, making the primary more than an ideological exercise in a state that has swung between the two parties in recent national elections. Analysts say the results will show whether the current leftist surge among Democrats can move beyond party-safe seats and win in battlegrounds with national consequences, or whether Michigan's Democratic establishment can still hold the line. Now, it's important to note that when it comes to this, as this piece over at Washington Free Beacon points out, this is where the real difference is. And this is the fact that you have a guy here who, first of all, claims to be a person of the people, this El Sayed guy. And he claims to be a part of the people, but dude is, first of all, he rails against the rich, but he is in fact a 1%er there in Michigan. His wife, who is a doctor, who is I think she's a psychologist or a psychiatrist, she doesn't take Medicaid or doesn't take Medicare or doesn't take Medicaid. He's very much a financial elitist, but he has all of the DSA, Democratic Socialist of America talking points down, and is 100% in line with them. And by the way, spends a lot of time railing against the establishment, largely when it comes to their support or the establishment support of Israel. Now, if you want to say he's not an extremist, well, let's just put it this way. This headline right here, once again from the Washington Free Beacon: extremist Michigan imam who hosted El Sayed urges followers to turn out to vote and deal the Zionist a blow. The Zionist a blow frames primary as an epic fight against the puppet of Israel. So in other words, anybody who's not, for lack of a better term, an Islamofascist, well, they happen to be a puppet of Israel. In other words, if you're not willing to denounce the right of Israel to exist, then in his eyes, you are a puppet of Israel. Anybody who's not pro-Hamas is a puppet of Israel. Now, this guy's family, once again, El Sayed's family, has raised money for a number of organizations, terrorist organizations, quite frankly. Or let me word it properly: organizations with terrorist ties. Right? He has absolutely no problem. In fact, when the head of Iran, when the Ayatollah was killed, he basically said, "Look, I am not going to question. I am not going to say anything about it, because there's a lot of my supporters, a lot of people in Michigan who support him, who are upset that he is dead." Now, keep in mind, this is a guy who has engineered multiple terrorist attacks against the United States. This is a guy who has been at war with the United States for 47 years. This is a guy who has been deemed a terrorist by multiple administrations, Republican and Democrat. And yet and still, there is absolutely no possible way that he is willing to even without criticizing him, talking about what a positive development this is. Nope, couldn't do it. Could not bring himself to do it. And that's very telling about who he is. Now, this guy's a very sharp guy, right? He rarely will answer questions straight up. He's a very smart guy, but he is also very anti-American. When I say anti-American, he is beyond anti-American. He wants to tear down, once again, he is for the idea of eliminating the Senate. He is for the idea of packing the Supreme Court. He is for the idea of ending capitalism and entering into socialism. He is what folks would like to call an Islamunist, right? He's a communist who's he's a Islamist who's partnered with communists. And you guys know this, as Ben Shapiro would refer to it as the Red-Green Alliance, right? This is where the left, the progressives, have sided with the Hamas crowd, because they both recognize, and both sides kind of recognize this common goal of tearing down Western culture, tearing down the establishment. Now, what neither side either don't realize it, or they're ignoring it for now, is if they win, if they ever get to the point where they've actually won, as soon as they've won, the next goal is going to be to take out the other side. So in other words, the progressive establishment is going to try and take out the Islamists, and the Islamists, well, let's just say they are more than willing, more than ready, I think more than prepared to take out the progressives. That's where they're headed. That's what they're doing. That's what their goal is. And right now, the question is, do Democrats realize that control of their party is on the line? I mean, this is a guy who, if elected, would likely be, if he were to win and get elected to the Senate, would likely be the face of the Democratic Party. Right? He's a young dude, he's a handsome dude, he's wealthy, he's smart, he's not dumb. This guy is not dumb, right? He's just got a plan. Let me be real, that plan includes him being part of the ruling elite. Not being one of the people. He plans on being one of the ruling elite. And, once again, he's sharp enough and he's articulate enough, and he's handsome enough where I could see him talking a lot of folks into doing a lot of stupid things. So now, and the person that he's running against, I'm not going to say she's not the sharpest knife in the drawer. She is just, what's the word I'm looking for? She's not the ideal candidate. We'll put it that way, right? But once again, on most issues, very few things separate the two individuals. They're pretty close to each other. I mean, really, if it weren't for the whole, him supporting, the end of Israel, they might actually be friends. Who knows? But anyway, there's a lot that's on the ballot. And here's the thing, I think Republicans, here's the thing I would say. When you look at recent polls among young people, I get it. What you're thinking is, well, this El Sayed guy, he's so extreme that people won't vote for him. And people in Michigan won't vote for him. Well, somebody is going to vote for him. And the trends are not going our way. As more young people are supporting the idea of socialism, ignoring of history, ignoring the fact that socialism has never, ever, ever worked, that it's resulted in the deaths of hundreds of millions of people, ignoring the fact that the countries that they keep trying to point to and say are socialist, like Scandinavian countries, are not socialists, right? These are countries with free market economies with big social safety nets that, quite frankly, are sustainable because we provide the overwhelming majority of their national defense. Anyway, all that having been said, socialism has never worked. And yet and still, these folks are pushing it. And I don't understand why the basic understanding of economics just doesn't seem to be taking. Maybe it's just not being taught. But it ain't happening. And people will fall into this. And the sad part is that there's enough people, well-meaning people, who just aren't bright enough, who are going to look to the youth. They're going to look to the fact that this is a handsome dude. And if you look at a lot of these candidates that are winning, they're young, they're attractive, they're saying all the right things. They're talking affordability, they're talking health care. They're not talking about how what they plan to do will actually fix it. They won't talk about how what they plan to do, which has already been implemented in some areas and hasn't worked, they won't talk about any of that. They're just going to say it's not affordable and it's Donald Trump's fault. They won't talk about the fact that, well, in the places where it's most unaffordable happen to be places where the policies that they want to implement have already been implemented. They won't talk about that. They won't talk about the fact that places like, let's see, on the unaffordable index, let's see, Hawaii, New York, California, right? Michigan, right? All of these states that are already run by Democrats, or even the red states where it's highly unaffordable. In those places where it's highly unaffordable are cities that are run by Democrats or Democrat socialists, pushing the same policies that they're pushing. But they're not interested in that. They're not interested in the truth. So, folks, I would not take it for granted. If you are out there and you are paying attention and you have the opportunity to vote in one of these elections, please get out there and vote. Please encourage your friends. Vote. Here's the thing. Do not vote for the socialist. All right, I get it. I know you think it's an easier sell. I know you think it's an easier person to beat, but I would not. There's a reason why we have Ilhan Omar. There's a reason why we have Priya Jarapal. Anyway, whatever her name is. There's a reason why we have Ilhan Omar, and that's because there are people who believe. There are people who are more willing to vote for a look and a person who has the right rhetoric than people who actually know what they're doing. By the way, speaking of people who actually know what they're doing, this is an interesting one. There's a lot of rigmarole. A lot of people are upset about what's going on over at the Smithsonian, and they're concerned that, science is no longer being taught over at the Smithsonian. Well, it turns out there is a historian. And he's just one historian, but there are a number of historians that are probably right along with him who've spent some time and who visited the Smithsonian. This particular case, he hadn't visited in a decade and realized how much of a different place it was and wanted to talk about it and basically put out a paper talking about the problems with what he is seeing and how the Smithsonian has gotten away from teaching science and history and more focused on activism.
There in 2012, its mission is clearly exactly what they changed it to be. It is a museum for activism, and it has, they use history, but that's kind of the problem. Scholars of history, and I don't consider these folks scholars anymore. They're activists. And my primary reason for my visit was to do some more research and on a couple of different projects, but I had, knowing I was having this opportunity, I added that into my schedule. I read the DSC report prior to going, and then I wanted to see for myself, what have they done there? And from the moment I walked in, it's a very different experience. Now, I wasn't totally shocked by this because I've been watching this evolution in my field for over a decade. It became this goal, their own stated goal, to turn museums from institutions of education, of public education, into institutions to encourage activism, which could also be said to indoctrinate, and not to give people information and let them make their own decisions, but to specifically direct them to action. That's what I found in there. It's as much in what they don't tell you where they're being misleading as to anything false that they say. There was some factually incorrect information in certain exhibits, but that's not the biggest problem. The biggest problem is in what they leave out. And then there's the critiques of, this exhibit was gone by then, but I've seen the thing about the exhibit that had like sex toys and stuff like that. Well, yeah. Really? In a history museum in that graphic, and museums are, and especially these are geared to all ages. Why would you do that? That's all of that's out of sync with what museums were just a few years ago. Really, the hearings is when my experience to go through the museum was one thing. It was after going through there and then listening to her testimony, Hartig's testimony, was just very disappointing. That I did not see that as a scholarly presentation whatsoever. And it's like, own it. If that's the kind of museum you've been approved to run, then just own it. Don't say you're
right. And the point that he's trying to make here is that, once again, rather than promoting and talking about history, they're trying to advocate. They're trying to advocate for a particular culture. They're trying to advocate for particular tale of how history works, right? If there's no better place to look than the African American History Museum that's there, where they have this display, they have this whole section on the culture of whiteness. And I'm just like, well, first of all, if it's a African American History Museum, why are we doing something on the culture of whiteness, number one? And then the stuff that they consider to be the culture of whiteness, things like logic and reason, right? Things like being on time. All of these are all part of the display there in the culture of whiteness. And I'm like, wait, what? Anyway, the point being is that even by the way, when it comes to science, promoting and pushing the idea of quote unquote climate change, as if there's no discussion, as if there's no debate, as if nobody disagrees, or there's zero disagreement, or no history on even climate science, right? They don't even want to talk about that. They don't want to talk about the fact how it's changed over time, because if they did, they would mention the fact that at one point they talked about global cooling. Then when the numbers didn't kind of pan out with global cooling, then they switched over to global warming. And then also then when the numbers didn't pan out, they switched over to climate change. They completely ignore all of the predictions that were made in Al Gore's movie An Inconvenient Truth, right? In fact, even some of the more recent predictions that have been made about increases in global weather disasters, or global, they call them climate disasters, or things like hurricanes and tornadoes and things like that. Yeah, when the numbers of those things didn't increase, once again, no reporting on that, nothing on that in the Smithsonian, because there's an agenda. And the sad part is science has been politicized. And I'm not saying the right doesn't do it either. But I'm saying that right now, the establishment within the science community is largely driven by, not so much by politics, but by money. And those willing to put money into science and research. And they're putting the money in because they're looking for a particular outcome. And, if you support that outcome and your science is going to support that outcome, then they're more likely to kick money down to you. If not, then not. And that are kind of be how it be. Anyway, moving right along. All right, so I found a story, and this is kind of interesting because I found a story dealing with foster parents, right? And in the state of Wisconsin, foster parents, it's not just there, but anywhere in most places, if you are a foster parent, your right to keep and bear arms to a certain degree has been highly limited by local governments. In other words, they've come in and they've said, well, you know what, we're going to restrict your ability to own or possess firearms. We're going to restrict your ability to be able to, how you're going to store your firearms. And in many cases, if you own firearms, they will restrict your ability to become a foster parent. Well, in the state of Wisconsin, a court has ruled that that is not, in fact, constitutional. They've said that basically, if you are in that state and you want to be a foster parent, you do not lose your right to do so. Let's read a little bit of the article here before. By the way, this article keeps disappearing, and I do not know why, except to say that they, I don't know. There seems to be some sort of block on anything gun related on here. Anyway. It says here, parents who sign up for foster families don't see their Second Amendment rights, a Wisconsin appeals court has ruled. The case involved Brian and Katie Lafferty, who clashed with the Wisconsin Department of Children and Families and a local county human services department. The officials argued that the parents signed away their right when they applied to be foster youths. The three-judge panel said that was wrong. We conclude that the Raffertys did not waive their constitutional right by volunteering to serve as foster parents, wrote Judge Maria Lazar. The county had initially imposed a demand that those seeking to be licensed as foster families with concealed carry permits could not carry their guns when in the presence of foster children, must store their guns behind two locks with ammunition kept in a separate place, and must disclose all of their firearms and their locations to the county. In the years since the court battle began, the county tried to retreat from some of those rules, including restrictions on carrying firearms in the presence of foster youth. The county also retreated from the two-lock rule. The latest iteration required the firearms to be stored unloaded and locked away from foster children at the ammunition be in a separate location altogether. Okay, before we get into how dumb this requirement is, we're going to talk about how dumb this is. So number one, if I'm in possession of a firearm, right, if I own a firearm, unless I'm just using it for hunting, I have it because I want to defend myself and I want to defend my family, right? If you tell me that I cannot carry it in the presence of my family, if I'm not allowed to possess it in the presence of my family, how do I then use it to defend them? Should a time become necessary, like, oh, I don't know, I'm at an In-N-Out burger and someone starts shooting, how am I able to defend them? Or maybe I'm at a barbecue place, Lucille's. If I'm not able to carry and someone comes wandering in with a knife and starts trying to attack people, how am I going to be able to defend myself if I'm not allowed to carry? That kind of undermines the whole point. And it definitely is not in line with Bruin, because there's nothing historically you could look at all where where there has been any sort of a limitation on the ability of an individual to be able to have a firearm around, not just around children, but around children who they are fostering and who they are taking care of. Now, let's now deal with the other obvious piece of stupidity. Folks, and this is the big thing, because I know for some reason the Brady campaign pushes this, and I don't understand. This is just the dumbest thing. If you are going to store a firearm, right, the idea is you have a firearm in your home, so you have it in a safe. The idea is that you want it to be readily available in the event, if there is a home invasion, if someone does break into your house, that you can access it and utilize it to defend yourself and your family, right? If the ammunition is someplace else, the guy who broke into your house is not going to hit the pause button and wait for you to run to the other part of the house, to the other safe, and get the ammunition and put it in the gun. That is just dumb. You have rendered that firearm useless. It is now just a useless hunk of metal. When you store your firearm, you need to store it in a place that is easily accessible by you, right? That's why they have things like biometric safes that are relatively inexpensive now, right? But you keep it loaded. And I'll even go one further. You don't just keep it loaded. If it's a semi-automatic, you keep it loaded with one in the chamber. Right? That way, as soon as you access your firearm, it is ready to use. Because trust me, that delay of having to go and even just to rack the slide could mean the difference between you and your family getting out of that situation alive and someone losing their life. Let alone if you have to go to another part of the house and get the ammunition. That's just dumb. That's beyond dumb. And I just find it idiotic that regardless of how you feel about guns, stop recommending that people please do not recommend that people store with the ammunition somewhere else. That is just dumb. That is beyond dumb. Don't look dumb. Don't make yourself look dumb by recommending something stupid like that. Please. Please. Maybe it's just me encouraging y'all. But please don't do that. All right, now our next story here. This is an interesting one. So this story right here, well, we talked the other day about Sophie Cunningham and her position on men and women's sports, and you had the coach of another NBA team, WNBA team, say basically, well, I don't know, I'm not qualified, but exclusion is not the option. Well, I think there may be a chance for us to find out exactly what that may look like, exactly what that could possibly look like. As is being reported by Fox News, it says here French trans phenom Julie Titart looks WNBA ready. So why hasn't the inclusive league called? And let me just show you a video from Julie's Instagram and let you get an idea of what kind of competition we're looking at.
Boom. Who bringing the noise? Go, baby.
Did you see that? I mean, this is an individual who is, let's just put this, well, let me read this. It says here, French trans basketball player Julie Titart is waiting for a call from one of the inclusive WNBA teams who needs a 6'3" scoring rebounding machine. During the 2025-26 season for a club team Monaco, Titart dominated the second-tier French Women's League, League Two, by dropping 21 points per game while grabbing 20 rebounds. The biological male, who came out as trans in October of 2021, led the league in both categories. It was a season unlike any that Ligue 2 had ever seen. With those numbers, the WNBA should be knocking at their door, right? Quote, if they contact me, I won't say no, but you have to be realistic. I'm old. There are far better players than me. The overly humble 34-year-old Titart told Outkick in French over Instagram direct message on Monday. Far better? Are you sure? And once again, if you look here, you can kind of see from their Instagram. Let's go to the Instagram here. Definitely in shape. Definitely, let's go to the full Instagram page here. Definitely, you can see here from the Instagram significant size and muscle tone. Would be very, very interesting to see this player, even at 34 years old. I mean, heck, they're younger than LeBron is. So hey, why not? Why not come over to the NBA and play? I think if the WNBA is going to be inclusive, I think they need to invite this player to come. In fact, if I were this player, I would have my agents reach out. I would, because keep in mind, in a lot of these European leagues, they have a lot more talent than a lot of the leagues that we have here in the United States because they pay a lot more. So yeah, I would be real interested to see the inclusive WNBA. I'd love to see how some of these female players would love to go up against this individual because this player is jacked. I mean, not just tall, not just big, but I'm talking muscular and strong, and would definitely dominate in the WNBA. Even Brittany Griner, I don't think could handle this player. Not saying, just saying, right? But I mean, if you're going to be inclusive, then let's do it. If you honestly don't believe that there's any difference, then let's start with this and go from there. I doubt it'll happen, but it would be interesting to see. Am I the only one who thinks that way? Let me know in the comments. All right, folks, that now brings us to our parting shots. Parting shots are brought to you by Hog Holsters. Just go to hogholsters.com. Use the discount code The Rundown. All caps, no spaces, one word. Get your Hog Holster today. By the way, all of our parting shots today are also going to be brought to you by the Babylon Bee, fake news that you can trust. All right, first story here, first headline. Trump warns Iran this is their fourth and last chance at peace. Yeah, once again, I had a conversation with someone about this earlier today. I'm like, look, dude, they're not interested in peace. Iran is not interested in peace. They're interested in wiping Israel off the face of the map. And if they get if they believe they have to have a nuclear weapon in order to be able to do it. So good luck with that. Here's another one. Government runs stores to allow anyone to buy groceries as long as they have a special mark on their hand or forehead. For those of you who are just listening to the program, that looks like a 666. And those of you who don't know the significance of that won't get the joke anyway. Next up, Trump signs executive order to bring back racist pro sports team names. I still don't believe that. Well, okay, Redskins is kind of, you could call it racist, yeah. But God, they've had that name so long. I still refer to them as the Redskins. At least bring back the logo. I mean, the chief, the folks who the tribe that chief represented, the one who it's modeled after, they've asked them to bring back that logo. So anyway, Indians, I don't see how that's racist, but anyway, I digress. Spain proudly announces that Ceuta is the fastest growing city in the world. Yeah, that's because 60,000 people just invaded it. That would be true for now, but yeah, they were letting through a lot more in a couple of small towns in Texas, not too long ago. Matter of fact, just one administration ago. How about that? Here's another one. Only elite assassins can do this, Candace Owens says of 6-month-old crawling across a kitchen floor. Yeah, this is for those of you who've been following the whole Candace Owens conspiracy theory about, Charlie Kirk assassination. She's a crackpot. She's an attention-seeking crackpot at that. And then here, I'm not even going to, we'll read through some of these. How much time we got? Yeah, we got a little bit of time. It says, James Tallarico tells his 9 favorite Bible verses. Let's see what they are. Ask not what your country can do for you, but ask what you can do for your country. That's inspiring words, but that's not in the Bible. Hang in there. Yeah, it's such a beautiful verse. They put it on a poster with a cat. Yeah, no, that ain't it. Male and female, he created them. And then he realized that was bigoted of him, so he made 7 more genders. I don't know where they're getting these scriptures from, these Bible verses, but they're probably making them up just the way that James Tallarico makes up his Bible verses. Dance like no one is watching. Okay. And they cried out to Lot, where are the men who came to you tonight? Bring them out to us that we may know them. I believe that's actual Bible verse. It says, Lot is exposed for refusing the crowd's desires of their hearts. Never be a Lot, Tallarico. Never be a Lot. Okay, anyway. I don't know. The rest of this that one isn't really funny. I apologize for that one. That one right there wasn't really funny. But in any case, that's going to be the end of our show. Before we go, though, we're going to give one more quick shout out to our sponsors. We're going to start with the folks over at Hitman Industries. They make rifle and pistol caliber barrels available for your purchase at hitmanindustries.net. Then we've got the California Republican Assembly, working to help elect conservatives at all levels of government, from school board all the way up to President of the United States. Check them out at cragop.org. Then we've got the best in concealed carry tactical holsters available on the market at hogholsters.com. That's HAWGholsters.com, helping Americans wear guns. And then finally, the place where you can find all things tactical except the gun, that would be at uscombatgear.com. All right, folks, once again, that's going to be it for today's program. We appreciate you tuning in. We appreciate you liking and sharing the program and encouraging your friends to do the same. We'll be back tomorrow on Hump Day. Till then, y'all have fun. Stay safe. We'll see you mañana.